Here's the instructional video for rolling the rib cage on the wall. Okay, I'm so excited to share this information with you. If you haven't guessed by now, I'm excited a lot by all of our relief through rolling curriculum. But this was a big game changer for a lot of our patients and our clients, especially anybody having any kind of shoulder issues, back issues, neck issues, low back issues, and respiration issues. So oftentimes, these big bulky muscles on the rib cage, when a person is in sympathetic nervous system state, it actually changes where the blood flow is being distributed. So the latissimus, the serratus, the trapezius, all of these large bulky muscles draw more blood because the nervous system is saying danger, danger, danger. We need the big bulky muscles to work, and it actually pulls the blood away from more of our intrinsic musculature. So the intercostals, the teres, all of these other muscles that are so important, they actually get less blood flow because of the stress state. So as we get to work through this region and we get that nervous system to let this latissimus go, to let the trapezius go, these teres go, it really has a huge impact for your clients on changing so many things. So if you had a patient who couldn't do the rolling the rib cage technique on the floor, here's how we're going to do it on the wall. So Jenna's just going to take a roller. She's going to put it horizontally against the wall. Now the beauty behind this is now she can finitely control her pressure. She can use as little pressure as she wants or as much pressure as she wants, depending on how she leans into this roller. So what she's going to do is we got to pay attention to what's going on with this arm, and as we get working through the technique, we'll talk about some of the hows and the whys. But we're going to start with making sure that the roller is either horizontal or it's pointed down just a little bit. What happens for some people is that they'll point that roller up and then it puts that arm and shoulder at an angle where there's a bit of pinching through that glenohumeral joint. So we're gonna start here, and the start portion on her body is gonna be about that diaphragm level. If we go below that, that could be putting a little bit of extra pressure into the abdomen, and then as they work a little bit posteriorly into those floating ribs, the 11th and 12th rib, and that can be quite painful for some of our patients. So what Jenna's gonna do is the actual start position is she's going to have the roller at that diaphragm level to start. She's going to make sure that her sternum and her belly button are pointed at the wall at about a 45-degree angle here. Because what happens with this tissue in the front, as we talked about, is that it gets contracted and it pulls forward and down. So what we need to do to change the shape of that rib cage is we get this to lift up. We want this latissimus to get back in the back side of the body where it's supposed to be. So that's why we're going to roll the direction that we're rolling. So as she's facing that wall, she's going to take a soft breath in. As she exhales, she's just going to sink and soften into that roller, and then stick her slow. She's going to roll from the front towards the back, taking that tissue from lateral to posterior. Good, back to center. And so when she repositions, she actually lifts just a little bit off the roller to take some of the pressure off, and then she goes back into her start position. She sinks into that roller, nice and easy. She's gonna go from lateral to medial on that posterior side, and she can go a little bit past vertical. Now in our floor version, we wanted to make sure that they didn't go very far past vertical because we didn't want them splayed out over the roller. Now because we're not working against gravity in that capacity, you could actually have your clients go back a little bit more than what we were doing on the floor, and they're going to be totally safe. So after 2 or 3 passes, she's going to work that roller up a little bit farther, and this is where people can get very intimate with their rib cage, and they can really learn and increase that awareness about what's going on. And then the key, as she starts to work that roller higher, is that we're just going to pay attention to where that front arm is. So as she gets that roller up towards the top of the axillary line, where those teres, major, minor, are, and the gluing of that latissimus into those teres, is that if a patient has that roller real high and pointed up at the front, again, that's where that pinching in that shoulder girdle is going to come from. So we want to make sure as they get to the top, they might even want to point the front end of that roller down at the ground. And what will happen is that that will really soften up that whole line through the arm all the way up into the neck, and give her so much more freedom through that teres because they're not contracting so much. And it's exactly the same technique. She rolls towards the wall, or she gets set, softens, and then nice and easy, stick her slow. She's going to come away from the wall And then the other thing to pay attention to is what's happening with their head. For some of our patients, the head likes to beat everything else. So what our patients will do is that as soon as they start going, the head starts turning really fast. So they're cranking their neck, and their head, and we want to make sure that their nose, their sternum, and their belly button all stay in line the whole time. And so that's going to be something I want you to pay attention to when you're working with your patients. Now, the last piece to this is that if you have a client who can't stand, or they have a very limited amount of time that they could be load bearing into their legs, again, the brilliance behind the Relief Through Rolling curriculum is that I've made it for everybody. So all we're going to do is we're going to take our trusty stool, we're going to put it over here against the wall. Jenna's going to sit, and she's going to put the roller here. And again, we're back to being able to do all of these techniques for anybody that you're working with. So we would start through that same protocol where she would start the roller down at a rib cage, 2 or 3 passes, move it up, 2 or 3 passes, and we can go from there. So no matter what kind of clients you're working with, whether they're load bearing into their legs, they're not load bearing, whether you can get them on the floor, whether you can't, the Relief Through Rolling method is going to give you so many opportunities, and our curriculum really is designed for you to work with anybody who has anything going on.